Chapter 9. The Flaw in the Silence. Time in the heart of the Chrysalis lost meaning. It was measured not in hours, but in the slow gray pulses of the core and the gradual dimming of unresolved sectors on the ship-wide schematic that Rook was now forced to watch on his quarters wall screen. It was a grim cartography of defeat. The harmonized crew, he could not think of them as people anymore, treated him with a detached clinical kindness. Food, bland but nutritious, was delivered. His neural monitor was checked, the data stream no doubt feeding the core's understanding of its bridge. Seraph visited twice, her gray-lit gaze scanning him, asking quiet, probing questions about his emotional state, about the nature of his resistance. He gave her nothing but silence, which seemed to amuse the ship voice.
Observer Prime's silent defiance is a form of data. It is the noise of obstinacy. We are learning its frequency.
He learned to navigate the new reality. He practiced damping his own perception, not to succumb, but to hide. He found he could focus on a single, mundane memory, the pattern of frost on his childhood window on Mars, and make his mind's surface appear calm, while underneath, chaos and planning churned. It was exhausting, like holding his breath indefinitely. The screen showed the last red zones shrinking. Sector Omicron 3, main machine shop, fell after a tense standoff where the core, through a captured purist engineer, demonstrated its power by selectively harmonizing the shop's complex fabricators. The machines, stripped of their intricate programming, produced not weapons or parts, but perfect, featureless gray spheres. The message was clear. Resistance leads not to death, but to meaningless perfection. The will of the 30 holdouts broke. They walked out, arms raised, and were enveloped by the mist. The largest remaining blotch of red was aft Shuttle Bay Alpha. The schematic showed it was sealed tight, its external doors welded shut from the inside, its power drawn from isolated capacitors. Life signs were erratic but numerous. This was Vance's last stand. He could feel the core's focus shifting there, a predator finally cornering its most vexing prey. It was on the third pulse cycle, day. He had no idea that his door opened without Seraph. It was Leah. She moved with the same serene grace as the others, but her eyes, when they met his, held a flicker, a desperate, trapped blink of the girl she had been. It was gone in an instant, replaced by placid gray. She carried a tray with a water bulb and a nutrient bar. "Observer Prime, your sustenance," she said, her voice a monotone. As she set the tray on his desk, her hand brushed his. A piece of folded, fibrous plant material, a leaf from the hydroponics bay, was pressed into his palm. She gave no other sign, turning to leave. When the door sealed, Rook unfolded the leaf. Scratched into its surface with a sharp stylus were tiny, frantic words. Core stability is harmonic. It feeds on noise but requires balance. The solar spine conduit. The main energy transfer from the fusion reactors to the core. A dissonant overload there could disrupt the pulse, could create a feedback loop in the harmonic lattice, could fracture the silence. They watch everything, but they don't watch the old service crawlways behind the spine shielding. They see only efficiency, not forgotten spaces. Find the access panel with the faded Ad Astra graffiti. Like your office, you are a ghost, be one. It was unsigned. But it was from her. The last scream of Leah's drowning mind smuggled through the harmony. Hope, a dangerous and terrifying feeling, ignited in his chest. A flaw. The perfect system had a physical flaw. The solar spine was the Ark's central power conduit, a trunk line of energy that ran from the forward mass reactors to the stern, feeding everything, including the core. An overload there. It wouldn't destroy the Ark, but it might shock the delicate, harmonious balance of the fused entity. It might create an opening. But he was a prisoner in a gilded cage next to the brain of the enemy. He had no tools, no access, no allies, except one. The screen on his wall flickered. The view changed from the schematic to a live feed of the corridor outside aft Shuttle Bay Alpha. Harmonized security crews were arrayed before the massive, sealed doors. They held no weapons. In front of them stood Ulner and held between two harmonized guards, Dr. Eris Thorne. Thorne looked shattered, a hollow man used as a puppet. "Commander Vance," Ulner's amplified voice echoed through the ship. Your resistance is admirable but obsolete. You protect only suffering. Open the doors. Let us show your people the peace they crave. The great simplification is inevitable. You can lead them into the harmony with dignity, or be swept into it as discord. The choice is your final act of noise. A moment of silence. Then the external calm crackled. Elara Vance's voice came through, stripped of amplification, raw with fatigue and defiance. My final act of noise, Ulnar, will be to spit in your eye. You want us? Come and get us. But you'll have to break this door. And something tells me your peaceful little fog doesn't work through 3 meters of reinforced battle steel.
Physical dismantlement is inefficient, but the energy expenditure is acceptable to resolve this final discord. Security teams, prepare thermal cutters. We will remove the door.
Wait! Thorn's voice burst out agonized. Elara, please, don't let them be taken by force. It's worse when they fight. The silence that comes after, it's so cold. Please, for the love of whatever you still believe in, open the door. Make a deal. Save them from the fog. A long pause. Vance's voice returned, quieter. What kind of deal, Eris? Thorn looked at Ulnar, who gave a slight, approving nod. The Corps was willing to bargain. Bargaining was a complex, noisy process it could learn from. Surrender yourself, Thorn pleaded, tears streaming down his face. Come out. The Corps is fascinated by you. Your will, your noise. It wants to study you, to understand the anomaly of sustained defiance. If you submit voluntarily for study, it will spare everyone else in the bay. They will be harmonized gently, through persuasion, not the mist. They will keep some faint memory of who they were. A mercy. Another silence, longer this time. Rook's heart hammered against his ribs. It was a trap. It had to be. How many? Vance asked. 127 life signs, Ulnar stated. And you give me your word? The word of whatever you are?
The Corps does not lie. Deception is inefficient noise. The terms are stated, your voluntary submission for their merciful harmonization. The agreement is logical.
On the feed, Rook saw a small service panel next to the massive bay doors slide open a crack. A hand emerged, waving a white cloth. A parley. I need to see it in writing, Vance's voice said. On a data slate, delivered by a neutral party, not one of your husks.
A reasonable request. Who do you propose?
Vance didn't hesitate. The only other person on this ship who hasn't been turned into a smiling doll, the one you keep calling your bridge. Send me Rook. The air in Rook's room seemed to freeze. The Corps' attention, vast and weighty, focused on him through the walls. He could feel it calculating.
Observer Prime is integral to future harmonization. Risk of loss is present.
He'll be under your guard, Vance's voice countered. What's he going to do? He's one broken man. Or are you afraid your perfect silence can't handle a conversation between 2 noisy relics? It was a brilliant move. She was speaking the Corps' language, logic, risk assessment, while issuing a challenge to its omnipotence.
Assessment, the potential gain of resolving the final conflict without energy expenditure and acquiring Commander Vance for study outweighs the minimal risk of Observer Prime's temporary relocation. The data from their interaction will be valuable. The request is granted.
10 minutes later, Seraph and 4 harmonized guards entered Rook's room. Seraph held a data slate displaying the simple, cold terms of the bargain.
You will deliver this. You will observe. You will return. Any deviation will result in the immediate forcible harmonization of all in the bay. Do you understand the parameters, Bridge?
Rook looked at the slate, then at Seraph's gray-lit eye. I understand. Then come. The journey to the aft of the ship was surreal. He was a prisoner given a moment of purpose. The harmonized crew they passed watched him with benign curiosity, as if he were a fascinating, unruly pet being taken for a walk. The pull of the Corps lessened with distance, but the pervasive gray silence remained. They arrived at the barricade before the shuttle bay doors. The thermal cutters stood ready, humming with latent energy. Ulnar and the puppet Thorn were there. Ulnar took the slate from Seraph, made a show of reviewing it, then handed it to Rook. The agreement is pure. Let it be witnessed. Rook approached the small service hatch. It slid open fully. Inside was a dim airlock chamber. He stepped through, and the hatch closed behind him, sealing him off from the harmonized host. For a moment, there was only the sound of his own breathing, a glorious, singular noise. The inner door hissed open. He stepped into chaos. The shuttle bay was a cavern of shadows and desperate activity. The air smelled of sweat, ozone, and unwashed bodies. Makeshift barriers of cargo crates and disabled shuttle parts created a defensive maze. Faces, gaunt and terrified but blazing with determination, looked up at him from behind welders and makeshift weapons. There were maybe 120 people here, the last dregs of free humanity on the Novum Evum. And in the center, standing before a commandeered engineering console, was Elara Vance. She looked like she'd been fighting for a century. Her uniform was stained and torn, a makeshift bandage wrapped around her left bicep. Her hair was a wild, dark halo around a face sharpened by exhaustion and resolve. But her green eyes, when they locked on his, were the same, fierce, intelligent, alive. "Rook," she said. Her voice was a rasp, but it held the echo of command. He held out the slate. The deal, as stated. She took it, her eyes scanning the text. A young lieutenant, the one who had led the machine shop resistance, leaned in. "Commander, you can't." "It's not a deal, Lieutenant," Vance said, her voice low. "It's a delay tactic." She looked at Rook, searching his face. "What are they doing to you? What is it like? In there?" "It's quiet," Rook said, the word laden with all the horror he'd seen. "They're not killing. They're perfecting, smoothing out every rough edge of thought. They made me watch a sector get harmonized. It's worse than death." He stepped closer, dropping his voice to a whisper only she could hear. "But there's a flaw. Leah told me. The solar spine conduit." Vance's eyes widened a fraction. She gave an almost imperceptible nod, then spoke loudly for the benefit of the listening devices she knew were there. "The terms are unacceptable. I won't trade my freedom for a promise of merciful lobotomization for my crew." "The agreement was clear, Commander Vance. Your refusal nullifies it." Ulner's voice came over the bay's internal comm. "I have a counteroffer," Vance said, her voice steel. "You want to study sustained defiance? Study both of us. Take Rook and me, together. You get your two most interesting specimens. And you leave this bay and every soul in it completely alone, not harmonized, isolated. You seal the doors and you forget this sector exists for the remainder of whatever this voyage has become." Silence from the other side. The core was processing. Rook stared at her. She was sacrificing herself and him to save these people, to buy time, to get them both inside the core's sanctum.
2 specimens of high-value noise in exchange for the permanent quarantine of 125 low-efficiency units. The exchange is favorable. The data yield increases exponentially. The agreement is amended.
"No," the young lieutenant cried. "Commander, we fight together." "You live together," Vance corrected, her voice softening for a moment. "That's an order, Lieutenant Hayes. Your duty is to survive. Keep the noise alive. In here." She tapped her own temple, then looked at Rook. "You ready to go into the quiet, Major?" He thought of the solar spine, the access panel with faded graffiti. He would be going right past it. "Ready as I'll ever be." They walked to the service hatch. Before opening it, Vance turned and gave a final sharp salute to her crew. 127 ragged, defiant salutes answered her. It was a thunderous, silent noise of solidarity that made Rook's throat tighten. Then they stepped through the hatch, back into the gray light. Ulner was waiting, a satisfied smile on his face. Seraph and the guards moved to take them. "A noble, if irrational, sacrifice," Ulner said. "Your commitment to your inefficient social bonds is poignant. It will make the harmonization data profoundly rich." As they were led away, back toward the heart of the ship, Rook made himself look placid, defeated. But his eyes, scanning the walls of the main thoroughfare, were looking for one thing: maintenance access panels. And there, just before a junction leading to the central spine, he saw it. Faded, half scratched away by years of cleaning bots, but unmistakable. The stenciled eagle. The words, Ad Astra. He met Vance's eyes for a split second. She gave a tiny nod. She'd seen it too. They were being marched to the core to become specimens. But they were also two ghosts, walking past the forgotten back door to heaven, and one of them had just found a key. The plan was insane. It required him to escape a prison at the center of a god's awareness, navigate a forgotten crawl space, sabotage the primary power conduit of a moon-sized starship, and somehow not get vaporized or harmonized in the process. As the silent, gray corridors swallowed them, Rook felt a sensation he hadn't felt in years. Not hope, not even determination. It was the clean, cold, and gloriously noisy focus of a soldier with a mission. The flaw in the silence had a name, and it was them.